Well, I think we're good over here, Mike. Hey, welcome to the Horsepower Shop, where today, among other things, we put the finishing touches on our Project Supernova, and if all goes well, we'll even get it rolling. But first, Chuck's Silver Bullet is back for an easy upgrade that turns your open differential into a limited slip.
Yeah, and once we're done, we won't have to worry about spinning that one rear tire all the way down the track anymore. Instead, we're going to have equal traction of both tires whenever we're in a straight line, but we're still going to retain that differential action that lets the outside tire spin faster than the inside tire every time we go around a corner.
And here's what does that. It's a PowerTrax no-slip traction system from Richmond Gear. Well, basically, here's how it works. This pin replaces the pinion shaft in your differential and drives the PowerTrax assembly. Now your axles slip into these spline couplers that have interlocking teeth for a solid hookup when you go in a straight line. But when you turn a corner, this spacer ring disengages the teeth for that differential action Chuck was talking about.
Yeah, the operation of this system is pretty simple, and the installation is even simpler yet. Now, the worst part about installing a standard posi is having to set up the ring and pinion up here inside the differential. But with the PowerTrax, we don't even need any special tools or a dial indicator because it all stays up here inside the case. The first step is to loosen the differential cover and drain the lube. Then remove the pinion shaft retaining bolt and the shaft itself. Then remove the wheels and calipers if you have four-wheel discs. Then push the axle in and remove the C-clip. Next, rotate the axle slightly. Then remove the spider gears and thrust washers. After pulling the passenger axle out about 6 inches, then remove the side gears and the thrust washers along with them. Before we can install that PowerTrax unit, we've got a little bit of prep work to do first. We're going to take some wheel bearing grease and just apply it right here to the teeth on the drivers. We're also going to put some grease right here on this spacer ring. That ought to do it. And then we're going to put some grease on these yellow springs here before we put them in these holes right here. Well, now we can install the couplers, starting with the ring gear side first. Now here's something that's really important. You'll notice right here on the synchro ring there's a little bit of a space. That's very important for orientation. On the ring gear side you want it facing forward. On the passenger side, face it towards the rear. Now reinstall the C-clip on the passenger side axle. We have two drivers and it's important to identify them. This one has a slot in it, so we're going to take the unslotted driver and we're going to make sure that this tang is facing towards the rear so it'll mesh with that gap I showed you earlier. Then you slip it into place on the passenger side coupler. Now you want to make sure that the teeth are fully engaged all the way around. Take the slotted driver now and mate it with the non-slotted driver, making sure that this tang is facing towards the front. We used part of a clothespin to act as a wedge between the coupler and the driver to keep them engaged. Then we rotated it a quarter a turn to reveal the spring slot. Now take the outer spring and insert the inner spring. Using a small screwdriver, compress the springs, then make sure they're fully seated in the slot.
And of course, you just repeat on the other side. Now here's something that's critical to the operation of your unit. The kit includes this little check block to ensure the clearance between the drivers is adequate. The narrow side of the block should fit between the drivers, but the wide side should not. All right, looks like we're in great shape. Now if the wide side does fit, you may have problems with your differential dimensions and you're going to have to call tech support at PowerTrax. Well, now for that second C-clip, we need to push the driver's side axle into the coupler, use the slot to insert the C-clip, and rotate the carrier a quarter turn to expose the pinion shaft opening. Then after you inspect to make sure all the springs are in place and you got a clear shot, It's time for the new pinion shaft. Oh, here's a tip that'll make installing it a lot easier. Use this old retaining bolt as a handle as you push and turn the shaft into place. Then take the retaining bolt, insert it into the case, tighten it down, and we're about done.
With the calipers and the wheels plus the differential cover back in place, we're ready to top off our differential with some gear lube. Now, we like to use the Royal Purple synthetic gear lube for its added lubricity and its reduced friction. Plus, if you've got a standard posi, well, that limited slip additive is already part of the blend.
By the way, that PowerMax kit will set you back a little over $400 and installs, like we said, with no special tools in about 2 hours. Oh, and once you're finished, there's one other thing you just gotta do. Well, it looks like the silver bullet's back with a little less rubber. Now it's time for our Project Supernova race car. A lot of you guys have been asking us, when are we going to take this thing out to the track and see how it hooks up? The answer is later today, hopefully, after we take care of some unfinished business to get this thing ready for some shakedown passes. You may remember we installed a Hughes Performance transmission along with our GM Performance Parts 572 engine. Now, it's a full race transmission with a built-in trans brake. A trans brake improves your reaction time by getting you off the line quicker, and it's really no mystery how it works. Once you've got your car staged, you press the trans brake button and hold it. That activates a solenoid that allows fluid to engage first and reverse gears in the transmission. Then, as the tree goes down, you release the button, and the solenoid moves in the opposite direction, allowing the fluid to be dumped instantly from reverse gear. First gear remains engaged, allowing you to leave at full throttle.
As you might have guessed, there's a little bit of wiring we need to do to hook up the trans brake, but not as much as you might think. First, we need to extend this positive coming off of the solenoid to the activation switch inside the car. And I've already attached the ground from the solenoid to the transmission crossmember. Up here I fed the red wire through the firewall at the strut bar, and from a switched 12-volt source I'm going to feed this white wire through the same hole as well. One of the best places to control the trans brake is from the steering wheel, but that's not going to happen with this big school bus wheel. So we need to swap it out for one we can mount a button on.
Here's what we came up with. It's an Evolution 1 wheel from Grant. Now, the smaller 13-inch diameter is going to help us with vehicle control, and as you can see, we also ordered one that matches our Supernova's color scheme. Now, we're going to mount it using this quick release hub from Moroso. What this will do for us is make it a lot easier to crawl over that roll bar and get in and out of the car. Now, while Mike mounts that hub, let me show you how I'm going to mount this button from B&M that's specifically designed to control a trans brake. After pulling the coiled wire through the existing mounting hole on the wheel, seat the button in the mount, and then we'll thread the nuts from the back side. Keep in mind that solenoid is going to pull about 20 amps, so you want to make sure all your connections use at least a 12-gauge wire. Plus, most racers actually wire that solenoid direct rather than using a relay. Now, that's because a relay would actually delay the actuation time and, well, you'd probably lose all the benefits that you'd gain by using a trans brake in the first place.
Whenever swapping a steering wheel, you want to make sure that the front wheels are pointed straight ahead. That way, when you go to index the wheel, the button will be in the place that you need it. Now, let me show you how this Moroso hub works. After indexing everything to the 12 o'clock position, I welded this hex adapter to the steering column shaft. Then this hub adapter slides over it. And the hub bolts to the adapter. Finally, put the steering wheel on using the 3 Allen head bolts. Now it's time to do our wiring. Now our white wire goes to the positive 12-volt source at the fuse block, and our black goes to the trans brake solenoid.
Good job. Now, let's throw the juice to it, see if it's going to work. Cool.
Looks like those guys have got the Nova ready for the track, and guess what? That's where Mike and I will meet you after the break, so by all means, stick around. Welcome back to the show and to US 43 Raceway Park. This is where Mike and I have taken the Supernova for its first shakedown passes. Now, our goal here is just to make a few short launches, make sure this thing is going to leave straight, and to ensure things like our brakes, our trans brake, and mainly that four-link are ready for the track. Well, here's what we did before we left the shop. Mike got under the car to adjust the four-link on the rear end according to manufacturer specs. It's important to make these adjustments with the suspension under a load, the way the car will be sitting when it launches. To get a baseline setting, he measures from the front spindles to the rear end to get it squared up with the front, and he makes lower link adjustments accordingly. Later on, if the car pulls left or right, adjustments on the upper links can straighten that out.
Before I make any serious passes, I want to take the Nova down the track and check a couple things out, especially the brakes.
Well, the brakes are working well and we don't have any leaks. So now Mike can put some heat in the tires and get ready for his first real solid launch. Once again, we're just out to make sure the Nova launches straight and solid. So these 60-foot runs are about all we need. Looks good, but kind of seems like the Nova wants to veer a little toward the wall. So Mike gets under the car and shortens the top right link about 1.5 flats. Oh, he also tweaks the shocks to add just a little bit more travel to them. Well, after more launches and more adjustments, the Nova was planting the power and keeping it planted pretty much like it was on rails. Hey, that last run was pretty stout. How'd it feel?
Man, the four-link's dialed in now.
Good deal, but you know, before we can take it all the way down the track, we've got to get our test and tune done on the engine, make that 572 reach its full power potential. Then we're off to the races, but hey, that's another show. We got more of this one left though, so stick with us. Good deal, man. Hey, want to sneak into the wildest power party on the planet? It's the biggest thing to hit Las Vegas ever. It's the annual SEMA show where the big wheels of high performance show up to show their wares. We'll crash the party later on Horsepower. Hey, every year we bring you guys to the SEMA show in Las Vegas, Nevada, and for good reason. Where else can you find 2 million square feet of anything and everything to do with cars and trucks? It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And for us, the big thrill this year was a chance to help the future of high performance with a little check to Wyotech's scholarship fund.
This is so appreciated. This will go directly to our students for scholarship. Thank you very much.
Good deal.
Of course, one of the best parts of coming to SEMA is checking out how innovation and imagination come together on really cool show cars like this 61 Buick Special belonging to Ted Richardson. Now, admittedly, this isn't a mainstream muscle car, and you really got to check out the details. Well, like what Ted's got under the hood here, just check out this aluminum-headed big block Buick that's fuel-injected and it's supercharged with a Pro Charger. Now, further back, you're going to find a 6-speed Richmond transmission and a Fab 9 rear end. From all show to all go, this 61 Corvette saw plenty of racetrack action with the late Dick Moroso. Now, today it's been restored and it's raced by his son Rick. Up front, the 363 small block is fed by a single 4-barrel. It gets it down the track in the 8s at over 150 miles an hour. Keeping all that power planted is a competition engineering 4-link and one of their 9-inch rear ends.
Of course, there's all kinds of eye candy to digest at this annual Power Party. And here's a heads up. This mega show is growing every year, which seems to prove more gearheads will be buying the parts, holding them on, and living the lifestyle known as high performance.
You know, timing is everything, especially if you're trying to maximize the performance in your street or your race vehicle. Well, now, Crane's OptiTrigger distributors eliminate the need for mechanical and vacuum advance, replacing them instead with selectable computer curves.
Yeah, they allow you to tailor the rate and amount of advance to optimize the timing in your specific application. It does it with 2 dials. This one has 9 settings for the mechanical, this one 3 settings for the vacuum, and it also uses a map sensor that connects here to control the advance curve for load compensation. They've got them for Chevys and Fords with small or large caps, and the prices vary according to your application.
If you've been scouring the boneyards or even the dusty shelves of your favorite parts store trying to find an output yoke for a Turbo 400, well, you know how hard they are to find. So now you can get out of the boneyards and get on the phone because TCI has a brand new replacement for the Turbo 400 yoke and a U-joint that's a direct replacement for the original. Now, both components are manufactured from high-strength heat-treated steel, and the U-joint has even eliminated the grease fittings for improved strength, and it also features precision machine caps for a close tolerance fitting to the yoke. Now, if you've got a Ford or a Mopar, hey, good news there too. They've got you guys covered as well.
Say, if you're a racer, you probably spent good money for good engine parts, so why would you want to cut corners when it comes to your engine oil? It is the lifeblood of your motor. Well, now Valvoline's VR1 Racing Oil is formulated to protect your engine against the extreme conditions of competition. It's also got friction modifiers and anti-foam agents, and get this, it'll also offer the same protection for your daily driver.
Well, get this, we're out of time right now, but we'll see y'all back here again next week.